I think I counted 5 couples that have gotten married as a result of having been on a Christian, not really Christian Tingle, but an online dating site, like a Christian online dating site. I think 5. And while that's not my approach, I did learn that there 1 in every 5 relationships now is starting online. Can you believe that? 1 in every 5 relationships is starting online that way. And while I'm not against that, I want to say that. Obviously not against that, because that's a cool way to do things. It's the technological age, whatever. But there's other ways people are doing things too, right? Like you guys start out texting. You meet somebody for the first time, or maybe you see them on Instagram, right? Like I know a few of you have done this. You've seen somebody on Instagram, and then you you say you like their stuff, and you like enough of their pictures, and they say, "Hey, you're cute. Text me sometime." And then you exchange phone numbers via the internet or something like that, or you have a mutual friend, you get your phone numbers out, and you start texting all the time. Next thing you know, you meet up once at a soccer tournament or something, and then you finally met this person, but you don't really know what this is, right? Am I just speaking out of left field here? Like I've literally seen you guys do this. So when I see a lot of relationships, especially amongst people our age and your age, that are they start with mutual friends. Maybe they hang out, and then they move to texting a little bit, right? And then they maybe hang out only together, or only with 3 or 4 friends. And then next thing you know, they're making out, right? And then things are really weird because they don't know what to do. There's hand holding and stuff, but you're not really together. You're just boyfriend, girlfriend, and things like that. And then you have the DTR. Does anybody know what a DTR is? Who knows? Raise your hand if you know what DTR is. 1, 2, some of the older girls. Okay, a DTR, I'm going to enlighten you tonight. A DTR is a define the relationship talk. Define, if you ever hear it, define a relationship. So, say you're in one of these weird relationships like that, and you have only been texting and hooking up and things like that. The DTR is a defined relationship. So you can say, "Hey, what are we? What's going on with you and me? Or where's this going?" Some of you looking at each other, "Yeah, you need to have a DTR." So you have the DTR, and you figure it out, and then next thing you know, somebody's either together or they're not. Right? And so you've seen relationships like this. They keep starting and going like this. The fact that people are dating in these ways tells us something, I think. It tells us that the boyfriend-girlfriend relationship dynamic is a really weird one. It's a very, very strange thing, right? This whole idea, you move from being complete strangers to being people who are involved in some way. Like they're with you or something like that. So that leads me tonight to ask, I need some help here. What is the point of dating? And I want to say from the get-go that I think all of you, and even myself when I was younger, would have been better off as teenagers and maybe even early part of my 20s, not dating at all. There would have been so much less drama, and I probably was like, "Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right." And so I want to put that out there for you. If you're like, "Man, I don't want to date. There's too much drama," you have my full support. But if you want to date and you think dating's okay, I'm okay with that. But tell me what the point of dating is. Anybody? Just pop. Yeah, Sean.
To find out more about it.
To find out more about somebody. That's a good answer. Marriage. To lead to marriage? Okay. Did you have any?
Find out what you like and don't like.
Find out what you like and so you guys have been listening. Okay.
Get to know people that could be a potential partner.
Right. Okay, anybody else? Anybody got something different than that? So I got real practical when I was thinking up some reasons. How about these? Physical fulfillment.
Oh my God.
Oh, everybody's face just got real red. Sean's like, "Oh no." Golly gee. I just came up from the children's department. I didn't know we were talking about this yet. Oh no. Hold on, But let's get real. Let's get real. I'm going to make Sean get really uncomfortable now. Let's get real. You guys, being your 12, 13, and then some of you getting up to 17, 18, have reached what scientists and anthropologists would call sexual maturity. So you have these natural biological urges, right? Like these things that don't make you weird, don't make you a perv, right? But you have these natural urges, and they draw you to do things like hold hands, right? To do the walking beside each other, and you gently brush her hand, and you just find it gives you enough gumption to go for it. Finally, yes, right? Or to go for the like super long hug, like the hug that says, "We're friends, but I want to be more." Everybody else is weirded out because it's a long hug, you know. Or eventually some making out. Some of you, right? Ew, gross. Don't get mono. Things like that. So this is a real thing, right? Like that's something that drives people to get boyfriends and girlfriends. This physical fulfillment. They want some of that stuff. So here's another one. Some of you guys are kind of hinting at this: finding a soulmate, somebody, that one person you can be with, right? That one person you can be with, your soulmate, sitting in a hot tub with your soulmate, like Uncle Rico. Matt, he knows. All right. Somebody said that find a partner for the rest of your life. Preparation for more serious dating. I like that. Some people date just so they can have a close friend. They don't like being alone, and they want to have that one person that they can be really intimate on an emotional level. On an emotional level, and they can talk to somebody, because sometimes we feel lonely, and our friends just aren't enough. We want that person we can call late at night and early in the morning. Some people, I've known a few people like this, who are trying to like fix somebody else. They're trying to save them, right? Like they have that girl, and man, she's pretty, but she ain't somebody you need to be dating, right? Like, she's wild. I had a friend like this. He was dating this wild girl. And he didn't realize it, but he was basically trying to fix her. He had turned her into like his own personal fixer-upper project. And plenty of girls do this too. They see that guy, right? And they think, oh, I can make him better. It's okay. I can fix him. Not always a good thing. And finally, the other one I thought of, proving something to friends. A lot of people, especially when you're younger, you try to prove to your friends that you have what it takes to get a boyfriend or girlfriend. Like, you're not such a loser that you can't have a boyfriend or girlfriend. Let me tell you, that's a dumb reason. Can I just tell you that? That's a dumb reason to have to get a boyfriend or girlfriend. Some of these are, and some of these aren't. But the end goal of all real dating, and I'm talking like real stuff. Like, you go out and you have dinner or maybe go to a movie. I'm talking about real dating where you're in a real relationship with somebody. The ultimate goal is finding a person that you're willing to commit to for life, and somebody that is going to be willing to commit to you for life. Marriage. So let's think about it in those terms. Now, before we get too far, I want you to turn in your Bible to 2 Corinthians chapter 6, and we'll start in verse 14. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, and we'll start in verse 14. Now, I'm not going to read that, so just hold your place there. If you got it on your phone, just keep it open, and you can handle that. If you got it with you, just hold your finger there into place. But I'll start off by admitting something that a lot of pastors and youth pastors will not admit to you. The Bible doesn't say anything about dating. It doesn't say anything specifically about dating. And that's okay, because we can figure out what we need to do as Christians without it. Because in the Bible times, they didn't even really do courting. You went to a dad and you said, "Hey, your daughter's purty, and she looks like she can water the oxen, and that she will be able to provide me with children. So, I want her. How much is she going to cost?" And he would say 500 goats or something like that. Right? They would come up with a price, a dowry price, right? Hey, if you got 500 goats for you, you are a pretty lady, all right? You are somebody. Now, because that was the case in biblical times, there's really not anything about dating, especially in the way that we perceive it. But in a second, we're going to look at this verse and we're going to talk about what that means. But getting back to marriage. If marriage is the ultimate goal of dating, finding somebody you can commit to, then it would stand to reason that we need to figure out what we want out of marriage. The first thing that you need to keep in mind when we're talking about marriage is it's not about love. It is not about love. And I know that flies in the face of everything that you've ever been taught by our culture about romance, about marriage. I get that. Like, we're taught that a guy's supposed to come in and sweep the girl off her feet, and she's supposed to look longingly at him like this for the rest of their lives and live happily ever after. And if that's not how she feels in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, then she can just leave. Or he can just leave if he doesn't feel that way anymore. But that's not what it's about. Marriage is about commitment. It's a covenant. And covenants don't end until you're dead. It's a covenant between you and them for life. Now, a lot of older couples have told me that sometimes they don't even really feel like they love their spouse anymore. Like not just that they don't feel the butterflies. Sometimes they feel like they don't even love them anymore, but they hang in there because they know the next day they probably will feel like they love them. Marriage is hard. Marriage is real hard. You ask anybody who's been married for any length of time. There is a real hard thing about living with somebody and making it work, especially when both of you are supposed to be in charge. It's not like when you live with mom and dad, they can just tell you what to do and you got to go, okay, fine, I will. You and her, or you and him, you got to figure this out together. And there are times when I look at Camille and I go, man, you are so hot. And I just love being around you, and you are the sweetest thing I've ever seen in my life, and I'm so grateful to be your husband. And there's other times where I just want to go to Sonic and be alone. I just want to go sit in my office and do nothing and read a book or whatever. Because living with somebody in that way is very difficult. The butterflies don't last, is what I'm trying to tell you. When I first met Camille, every time I got a text from her, my heart goes, I was like, yes, she likes me. And I was so happy. I was so happy. And whenever we got to be together, and when we first time we held hands, right? I was just so happy. I still love holding Camille's hand, but it's not the same. And some people, when feelings change and when things like that change, the butterflies go away, the fast heartbeats go away, they think, I'm not in love anymore. And they take off, man. They run for the hills. If you're not a Christian, you can just take this as good advice, but if you're a Christian, you can take this as biblical advice. It is a commitment. It is a commitment when you get married. Now, I realize that stuff happens, and good people get divorced sometimes. Like things happen in a marriage, things are said, things are done, and there's no way for the marriage to be repaired sometimes, and I get that. And so sometimes people get divorced, and that doesn't make them bad people, but ideally, marriage is a lifetime commitment. That's what you need to keep in mind whenever you're dating, that's where you're headed, that's what you're trying to find. So, as you're dating, you need to find somebody who's committed to the same thing. One of the things me and Camille said to each other when we got together was, hey, if we're going to stick this out, you need to understand this about me. I believe this is a lifetime commitment. And you need to find somebody who holds that with you. Because if you're committed and they're not, you're going to be in for a lot of heartbreak. So, you may be asking yourself, Josh, this is all great, but I'm 15 and I'm not getting married anytime soon. Right? I still got to go to college. I got to do all these things. I'm not getting married anytime soon. So what does this mean for me? Well, I am super glad you asked because I'm going to tell you. You should be practicing figuring out what it is you want out of a marriage partner when you're dating, especially at your age. Because chances are the relationships you're in are not going to lead to marriage. Everybody okay with that? Yeah? 99% of the relationships that take place at this point in your life are not going to lead to marriage. They may. It's not impossible. But what you can get out of that is that you can figure out what it is you want in a marriage partner. What it is that you think would be good for you to be married to. And how you can change. That's why God cares who you date. Because the person you're dating sets precedent for the next person you're dating, who sets precedent for the next person you're dating, who sets precedent for the next person you're dating. Right? And they set these patterns in your life, and you start dating in patterns a lot of times, and it's hard to break out of those patterns. You have certain types you like, and certain things you're used to, and And then eventually, these small relationships move on to bigger relationships, and which move on to marriage. Always think with marriage as the end goal in mind. So, God does care who you're dating because it sets precedent for who you're going to marry. Make sense? So let's look at 2 Corinthians 6, 14. Do not be bound together with unbelievers. For what partnership have righteousness and lawlessness? Or what fellowship has light with darkness? Some of your versions may say, do not be unequally yoked. That was the way to say it back in the day. But that always made me think of eggs, so I didn't want to do that to you. Do not be bound together with unbelievers. For what partnership have righteousness and lawlessness? Right? What he's saying is, look, if you believe this, and she believes that, or he believes this, how is this ever going to work? If you're a Christian, and they're not one, or they're one who's not really interested in this stuff, like, how is this going to work out? When you get up in the morning and say, all right, honey, me and the kids are going to church. Well, I'm going to stay in bed, babe. Bring me a beer. Right? How is that going to work for you? These things matter. And you can figure this stuff out whilst you're dating. You can understand these things while you're dating. If Matt is dating this girl and she decides that she never wants to go to church, she never wants to even go with him just to make him happy, right? And she's known for going around and getting caught smoking and doing all these things, stuff that Matt's not interested in or something like that. And he knows this. If he gets married to her, knowing that stuff, like he needs to know it's going to be in his life when he gets married. He can't just go, hey, stop that. Cut it out. Right? It's not going to work. Because she's going to be who she's going to be. Figure these things out ahead of time. That's why God cares who you date. So, the moral is, find somebody committed to Christ. You might get dragged down if you don't. If you don't find somebody committed to Christ as much as you are, you're going to find yourself dragged down eventually. I see some of you doubting me on that. Here's the truth. I've known a lot of people who've been in a lot of relationships. This is the Gospel of Josh, so you can take it for what you think it's worth. I've known a lot of people in a lot of relationships. And 95% of the time, that's a real mathematical number. 95% of the time, when the spiritual person is dating the unspiritual person, the spiritual person gets dragged down. They start doing things they don't want to do, that they never intended to do. They start compromising. Most of the time, the unspiritual person isn't lifted up. You can't fix them. And you need to focus on you and doing what's right for you. Just like you would with your friends. Put people around you who are going to lift you up. You want to focus on somebody who's going to make you go further in Christ, who's going to help further your spiritual relationship, not hurt it. If Christ is the most important thing in your life, why would you ever bring anything into it that intimate, like a relationship? That could jeopardize your relationship with Christ. That could hinder your relationship with Christ. God cares who you date. And you should care. So here's my advice. I know you want it. My first bit of advice is this. I got 4 of them. Be selective in who you date. Be very selective in who you date. Don't just date anybody, right? Like they came around and said, baby, you so hot. Let me get that number. Right? If they say, hey girl, you just need to run away. Alright? If she is so pretty, she's so hot, that is not a reason to date her. That is not a reason to date her. Make sure there's somebody you want to spend time with, somebody who would be good for you to spend time with, right? Second, keep the end goal in mind. Marriage. Keep marriage in your back of your mind. Thinking about, like, is this person the type of person I want to get married to? And if they're not, like, don't feel bad kicking them to the curb. In fact, If you're dating another Christian and you decide, hey, me and you aren't compatible, there's nothing wrong with breaking up with them. You're just saving yourself a lot of trouble, saving yourself a lot of heartache, and going, I don't think we're good for each other. Now let's be friends. Let's be happy together. Right? Like, it shouldn't be that difficult. Be clear about what you want and what you expect. Be clear about what you want and what you expect out of the relationship. If you want somebody who's going to help you further your relationship with Christ, let them know that. If you want somebody who's going to go to church with you, let them know that. Tell them. Be honest. Because they won't know. And they definitely won't do anything about it unless you tell them. Finally, live in the moment. Don't be thinking too much about marriage, but live in the moment. Don't live with this idea. Don't fall in love with the idea of love. But live in the moment. Be there with that person. And understand who you are in Christ. All right?
This is more like you ain't seen